Let's play this clip from former QAnon supporter. Her name is Melissa Rain Lively. And she gives us a sense of, like, who these people are and what they're about.
And it's heartbreaking. It gives me chills just thinking about it, because I know that these people have to be empowered to make the conscious choice to leave the cult themselves. The more that people, berate them, call them names, call them stupid, laugh at them, mock them, they are just going to dig their heels in harder and become more isolated, more scared, and more alone. So my advice is to love these people, understand these people, try to come to even ground and reason with them as best you can. Find things, common ground, things that you can agree on, and start there and really try to isolate what their fears are and what's motivating the irrational behavior and obsession with QAnon, because what you'll probably find out, it is motivated by fear, distrust, uncertainty, not necessarily hatred, not necessarily destruction. But these people can be helped, but they have to be empowered to do so.
Well,
not necessarily.
I don't necessarily know if I agree, but I do hear what she's saying, in that shaming them I don't think is effective. You see, like, the hallmark of cults is that they try to be incredibly insular, and any outside attack is seen as an affront. But, like, you and I just are more focused on what tangibly can be done, right, as opposed to coming to people with love. It's just these social media companies that profited off of sharing this nonsense at an insane, inordinate rate need to be broken up. I mean, that's a huge part of what we saw.
Yeah, I mean, I think on an individual basis, the idea of coming at people with understanding and this and that is obviously the best way to, if you're working to sort of deprogram them. And I do believe, I think saying it's not necessarily about hate and this and that, I think it's probably accurate. It's not necessarily. I think that I think there is a certain amount of racism, frankly, that is, and misogyny maybe at times that is in that, in the makeup of a decent amount of those people. Maybe, I don't know, maybe the majority of them, maybe not. I don't know. But there's no doubt that the same fear that she's talking about breeds that racism and that hatred. It is a fear of marginity. I know maybe I'm mispronouncing that word.
No, I think it was right.
Marginity, and also a fear of things that they don't know, like different people and different cultures, and the idea that they have no control in their lives, and that control is of not just of a financial thing. I mean, we've seen analysis of QAnon. They're not. We're looking at a lot of college educated people, a lot of people who are relatively speaking are doing well. It is a fear. I still contend that it is a fear of, and people can call it economic anxiety. I'm sure there's some of that, but it's really a fear, I think, of an anxiety that is born about less control over the culture and society.
Well, and powerlessness, right? And then when you're on Facebook and you're seeing videos that constantly validate your view, and you have this special knowledge that you're the one that's able to connect these things, it makes you feel special, and then that dovetails with like the overlap with what you're seeing with a lot of this evangelical ideology. An obsessive focus on children, pedophilia, abortion, this religious figure, the shadowy person Q, aka Jesus Christ, who's giving people directions and signs. There's so much of that, and then that also ties into what you're saying, where there's these latent, if not sometimes explicit, cultural anxiety factors. That's a part of Christianity. That's just Christian conservatism that's just gotten more extreme with this and more, radicalized siloed on Facebook.
But ultimately, what is that fear of pedophilia and that fear and the issues of abortion? That is again a fear of the emancipation of women, that a change in the social status.
How is pedophilia that?
I mean, I've talked about this. There was a great piece that I interviewed them on Ring of Fire. It came out of in the 80s when there was a sort of I don't want to say explosion, but in the wake of the emancipation of women in this country in the 70s, you started to see a lot of daycare centers that came up because women are starting to go to work.
Mm-hmm.
And that is where a lot of the pedophilia ring stuff started, where there was a lot of people who were accused of committing pedophilia who were running these daycare centers.
You did say this on the show.
And it is a second order, third order response to the idea of women not staying at home, going out and working, the kids being raised, at a daycare center, as opposed to a woman who is at home instead of going into the workforce. And that dynamic, that is where why are the children not safe? Because the mothers are not there protecting them. The mothers are out and they're trying to be business ladies.
Yeah, but there's a lot of female Q viewer or Q obsessive women, but that's because they're a part of that evangelical Christian culture of like women in the home.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
So no, I know. I see now what you're saying.
Yeah, they're worried about that infrastructure crumbling, and that is a second order sign of it, right? Yeah. The kids go to daycare center. That means that the mom is not at home; she's at work.
And the Epstein story validated it. And then you're able to say, oh, it's Podesto, it's Hillary Clinton, or it's whatever. And then
once you go down that wormhole, things get a little bit dark.
But and then if it's pedophilia, which is the worst possible thing that you can associate with anybody, that makes the figures in power even shadowier, and it also makes your blind devotion to this cause that much more righteous, which just brings me back to a feeling of power in a society that they feel is culturally slipping away from them. And then also, it's almost like a feeling of powerlessness that you can mainline into yourself by videos on the internet and information there. You don't have to go to a rally. You can feel individually special and making a difference in society from the comfort of your own home watching something on a computer.